Washington should be pretty healthy on a short week.
You are Locked On Huskies, your daily podcast on the Washington Huskies, part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
Welcome back into another edition of the Locked On Huskies podcast. I'm Roman Tomashoff. That's Lars Hanson. He's site editor with Athlon Sports' Inside the Huskies. I'm the site editor with Huskies Wire. Thank you for making this your first watch or first listen of the day, as we are part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day. Today's episode is brought to you by FanDuel. Place your first $5 bet and you'll get started with $200 in bonus bets guaranteed. Visit FanDuel.com to get started. Lars got a really fun show coming up for the Everydayers today. We're going to talk about some of our biggest concerns going out to Rutgers on a short week. Khmori House had a standout performance against Northwestern, and he was awarded with the Big Ten Freshman of the Week award. He's added so much to this program. We're going to go in depth on him a little bit, but we need to talk about Washington and just the injury report, because they're getting close to full strength. Where Jedd Fisch, we talked to him today on Monday. He said that Zach Durfee should be able to play this week. He said that Anthony Ward should be back this week, which is a really good sign for special teams. He said Anthony Ward probably, said Drew Fowler should return this week as well. Another good special teams depth, piece there. And he said Quentin Moore and Mikel Steen might be good to go next week. He was more hopeful on Mikel than Quentin Moore, but we'll get there. But especially on a short week, going across the country, this is really good news.
Yeah, I mean, in terms of what you need to have going against Rutgers, you need some defenders. Like, in terms of the offense, Quentin Moore, obviously we'd love to have him, but I don't think the addition of Quentin is going to win Washington this game, and that's no slight to Quentin. I'm just saying, when you look at the tight end position of what they've been required to do this season, you're looking at 4 combined targets average per game, maybe, and that's on a high note. So in that respect, obviously you want to have Quinn back for blocking, so Zach Heading doesn't have to be a 6-0 lineman and things like that. Kalecki obviously not. He's getting better as a pass blocker, but still
he is. He's gotten better. I got to give him credit there.
Exactly, but not to the level of Quinn. Quentin's still your best pass blocking tight end,
absolutely,
without question. Run blocking tight end, period. But when you look at the defense, like that to me is where it's going to be key, because as you asked Jedd on Monday's press conference about Boyd and Yuffie, there's so many pieces along that defensive line. And now you're adding Zach Durfee back to it after a big, 1.5, 2 sack game that he had against Eastern Michigan. And in a way, it was almost like, okay, when I saw Zach with a boot on the sideline, I'm like, yeah, but he's not wearing crutches. Doesn't seem to be bothered by it. Looks probably like a sprained. Doesn't seem to. This is a game where he can miss. You don't necessarily need him, because you absolutely need him against Rutgers. I mean, when we're talking about the final segment here, just kind of a preview for that. I know you like Common Guy. Like, going back and watching Rutgers film this season, like I went back and watched the entire Virginia Tech game. Like, you need Zach Durfee. You need Zach Durfee. And honestly, I think Drew Fowler might see some snaps on defense, more so on special teams. But as a veteran guy, just anytime you can get veterans back on defense, especially going against a team like Rutgers all the way on the East Coast, perfect timing.
You're absolutely right. So I want to kind of circle back around to that, because you mentioned Drew Fowler. We talked about Anthony Ward a little bit. Having both those guys back is going to be critical, because Lars, when we were, doing our show prep, shout out to our guy, Kim Reynolds, for asking about special teams during the press conference as well. And Jedd said, they're installing extra team practice periods for, special team kick coverage, punt coverage, all that sort of stuff. Washington is last in college football right now in kickoff yards allowed. They've allowed 42 more yards than the closest possible team, and that's Boise State. Washington is last. And Anthony Ward is a really good special teams player. Drew Fowler has played on special teams for a long time. Getting those 2 guys back is going to be critical in that regard. Adding the extra practice time is nice, and having those guys, those experienced veteran guys in those roles too, is also going to be crucial. So that's one thing that I'm looking for, where Rutgers hasn't returned a ton of kicks this season. So I didn't really put too much stock into, special teams numbers there. But when I look at just this group as a whole, that has been probably my biggest concern, even more so than the offensive line at this point, because if you're giving up short fields, even with this really good defense, if you put them in field goal range, like they did, Northwestern decided to go for it on 4th and goal, like that's free points. You can't give them free points, or anybody really, but having those 2 guys back is going to be really helpful. And I think that we'll see some improvements on special teams this week. And if we don't, I'm going to be really, really concerned.
Well, it can't get worse. as you noted. It can't get worse. I mean, I guess theoretically you can lock in, no pun intended, that you can be the worst special team. The ironic part is you were saying that I was looking up the PFF numbers for special teams. Rutgers actually has a worse graded special teams than Washington by like 2%. So maybe it's chalk. They just both suck at special teams. So again, if you can make that adjustment, that might be, again, this was a win. This was a game that we said before the season, going all the way out to New Jersey, and on a Friday night, late night, we saw how they handled this. The mock game was late night. The offense seemed to slow up a little bit, and I think that's even more imperative for the defense to not be put in short fields. Where we saw it against Washington State, where they started to get gassed towards the end of that game. You're asking the defense to now step up from the 2. Shout out to them for doing it, because again, it's against Northwestern. But now when you're leveling up against Rutgers, there's no way Greg Schiano's team does not score from within the 2-yard line. Like I have a hard time envisioning that happening.
So, you dropped a preview for later on too. I'm going to drop one too, where Greg Schiano might be my biggest concern in this game, where he is a fantastic coach. Jedd Fisch gave him tons of credit, said he's done a really good job building up that program. He absolutely has, 100% has. So that's one thing that you need your guys as healthy as possible. And, like Quentin Moore is one that you'll certainly miss in both aspects, Lars, as you alluded to earlier. But getting these guys back on defense is more important because of the roles they play elsewhere. Where Quentin Moore is not, you're not missing him on kick coverage. And Kalecki Latu and Decker DeGraff have stepped up nicely. It's still concerningly thin at that position. But when you look at what impacts the game more right now, it's those special teams plays. And those things, like those little advantages, are what good teams take advantage of. Where when we look at these last couple of weeks, even against Wazoo, they had plenty of opportunities to really put that game out of reach, and they didn't, because of a good defense, because of this being a still very solid coach team. But really good teams, Michigan, Rutgers, Iowa, like that's our next 3 games right there. Like those are your next 3 games. Those are all really well-coached teams, and they will take advantage of any little sliver of hope you give them. And I'm not saying sliver of hope is saying I think Washington's the better team. I'm saying sliver of hope in terms of if you give them any alley, any avenue to exploit, they're going to do it. And right now, special teams is the biggest one. So getting these guys back healthy is absolutely critical to that.
I agree, it's health, but there's kind of an interesting thought that came to mind when you said that. It doesn't necessarily tie into health, but it ties into the health of a winning team. Can you play disciplined enough? And I think this is why getting these seniors back is going to be important, because once you have that we haven't, aside from Seabass making the offsides on the first offsides against Wazoo that ended up sealing the game. But I think let's just kind of be real here. Like when the 4 of the 2 is the one that sunk that. Like at the end of the day.
Absolutely.
Yeah,
you don't need to spend too much time on that.
But I'm saying like getting these senior guys back, I think might help both on special teams and on defense, kind of just eliminate the dumb mistakes. Now I say that knowing Thaddeus is a junior/senior, so there's no real excuse for him to have those mistakes. But I just think like this is the game where if you're gonna you can't make a mistake. Like you really can't, right? Because we've seen, and again, you can't necessarily go back to records teams of old, but just this is your first road game, first true road game. Let's be real, Lumen doesn't count, and you're going all the way to the other side of the country on a Friday night. Like you really got to be mentally prepared for this game. So I think the senior guys coming back, and Anthony Ward being a junior but a very experienced guy on special teams, I think that might kind of just really bring home the communication. Maybe I don't know. I mean, Jedd said he doesn't know what the problem was. We just got to fix it. I'm like, that's great. What's the problem though? Like, what is the? Hey, by the way, would love to talk to Jordan Powell one of these series days. Would love that, but that's not my call.
Lars, very well said there, but we need to get to Khmori House because he had a stellar week and he was honored for it appropriately. Right after a message from our friends over at 5 Hour Energy, because 5 Hour Energy is awesome, and you can use it in so many different avenues of your life, like before a workout. If you want to get in shape but have trouble staying motivated, you should make 5 Hour Energy shots part of your lifestyle and get the energy boost you need to get fit. We all know you sometimes don't want to go to the gym. Take a 5 Hour Energy shot to give you the feeling and alertness you need so you can get to the gym, because with zero sugar and a convenient portable size, it's the perfect pick-me-up for getting stuff done. The 5 Hour Energy website has flavors galore like watermelon, tropical burst, grape, berry, and so much more. There's a flavor for everyone, and you should try them all. Because if you go to 5hourenergy.com, that is the number 5hourenergy.com, and get some 5 Hour Energy product today, you can use the promo code LOCKDOWNCFB to receive 20% off your order. This offer is only valid until September 30th on one order and cannot be used with other promotions. This code is not good on subscription orders. Go to 5hourenergy.com today. So Lars, Khmori House, absolutely fantastic game from him. 3 tackles, an interception, was just flying around, and he was honored as Big Ten Freshman of the Week. And this is awesome. Love this. He was certainly a little bit underrated by most major recruiting sites. I know On3 gave him a 4th star at some point, and he certainly deserved to be a consensus 4-star. Just what a fantastic product he has just put out early in the season. And one thing I really like about Jedd Fisch's coaching mantra and everything he does is this playing young guys, where we've seen a whole bunch of young guys playing every game. Damon Williams, Adam Muhammad, Khmori House, Peyton Waters, Decker DeGraff, Audric Harris, I believe has played in every game as well, where all those guys have been out there, and it's awesome to see that. You love that. And just putting them in position to make plays, you can really see what you're building for and what you can have down the line with guys like Khmori, and seeing him win Big Ten Freshman of the Week is just absolutely awesome.
Yeah, well, I mean, the craziest thing, here's what I'll tell you. This might be a carryover into this Friday. What is your guess as to where Khmori House ranks in run defense? In
terms of PFF grades?
Yes.
On the team?
Yeah.
3rd.
Close, 4th. But he's 1 of 4. Yeah. But he's 1 of 4 with an 80.2 grade. So you got Khmori at 4, Lanius Davis at 3, your boy Boyd Tanufi at 2, and Isaiah Ward at 1. And this is why when you look at it, and he's listed, I don't know how I feel about it, but listed as an edge on PFF. But I think it's almost kind of answering your question of why. I understand why, but it's almost like that's why he should have been a 4-star athlete. Don't pigeonhole him into a linebacker, safety. Because again, we've seen Khmori line up in a lot of different places. And as a freshman, I think, and that's why having such a senior leadership in the linebacker room, and Jedd mentioned it during his press conference on Monday, where Carson and Zoe have really taken him under his wing, or taken him under their wing, because we both agree Zadrius is going to be great next season in terms of playing and doing all those sort of things. But the guys are right now on the roster, Zadrius ain't on it. Yeah. Khmori's going to be one of the faces of the defense moving forward. Now, certainly Zadrius is going to probably play next to him, and I would no doubt imagine that being the case. But
that'd be awesome.
This is why it's almost like what it's going to throw everybody here. What Austin Mack did with Michael Penix. And in a similar way, Damon Williams with Will Rogers, where you're bringing him in early. You're more so with Austin Mack because you're bringing him in to learn behind Michael Penix. That's all he did. Yeah. That's literally the only reason he rolled early was learn from a Heisman winner, learn from a Butkus potential finalist if Carson Day want to get there. But, learn from one of the better linebackers in the country, and also Alfonso Tupdal, who I kind of agree with you has been better than Carson, more so because I think he's actually got more snaps and that sort of thing. Carson has been bad. Let's be clear about that.
Alfonso Tupdal has been that good. Yeah.
Exactly. And I think because the scheme has allowed it, and that's why this Steve Belichick defense works so well, because Khmori can do so many different things, and that's why you have so many different linebackers.
So shout out to Steve Belichick for all of this, for being the architect of this defense. But huge shout out to Robert Bala, man. He has done a fantastic job with these guys, getting them prepped. And just after, spending the last season with Nick Saban, it's awesome to see him just kind of, there's no particular practice. I want to say, oh yeah, this is what he picked up there, because we haven't gotten a chance to talk to him in a while. But with all of those guys, you just see improvement in leaps and bounds. And the scheme helps with that. And the coach helps with that. And it's the perfect mix of just watching these guys play super free and super fast. And Khmori is the best example of that. And I love that so much, because watching the way that, we've listened to Jedd talk about the young players, watching the way Khmori has actually played, watching the way he's practiced that same sentiment at other positions too, is one of the reasons we're so excited about the future of what this program can be under Jedd Fisch, because getting these young guys in, playing them early, playing them in every game is going to do nothing but benefit them. And that's what Jedd has said. That's exactly what he said. And this is why watching him come in, win Big Ten Freshman of the Week in his 4th career game. Second, I don't think he technically got the start. I don't think he was out there on the first play, but second, just true major role sort of game where he played a lot in first couple of games played the most and started in the third, and then had his role step up again in this game. But watching that, it gives me so much hope for, as you said, Zadrius Rainey-Sale, for Dylan Robinson at corner, for guys like Chris Lawson at wide receiver, where you look at the top ranked guys in that class and you just say, all right, yeah, if they can, if they're getting coached up in the same way and they're able to get out there early and produce, you can really build something super solid. And Jedd has shown that he can do that. Got to beat Wazoo, but he's shown he can do that. And now it's just Khmori, as another thing that Jedd called him, is one of the just building blocks of the program. One of the guys that is the future of Husky football, which is awesome. And you love hearing those sort of things. And yeah, it's a lot for him to live up to, but he's played so well that you can't not say that. Same thing with Decker DeGraff, where he's played so well, you can't just say, yeah, that kid's not the future.
Exactly. Well, and the other thing to consider is Jedd doesn't, because as much as he loves playing freshmen, he's not just playing freshman to play freshman. He's not getting every single freshman so he can say, hey, we played our entire freshman class in non-conference play. Like, we're the only team that's ever done that this year. It's like, no, you don't take the salesman approach that far, but you do it appropriately. Peyton Waters, Khmori House, guys that when you look at those two positions specifically, because I'm glad you mentioned Peyton, and you can go to Decker and those guys and Adam Muhammad on offense in the same regard, and Damon in the same regard. Hockey, same thing. Those all have guys right in front of them that are veterans, but are going to be departing the program after this season. Will, Mikkel, Cam, Justin Harrington, I think, is out of eligibility. I could be wrong. But, all those guys. And then you look at linebacker, which, okay, an edge, whether Durfee comes back or not. And Voy, I think, is out of eligibility no matter what after the season. So it's a good position to be in. You're not doing it. It's to say, oh, hey, we need to get this guy going because we are hopeless here. It's no. Look at how many freshmen haven't played. The amount of inactives and actives are about the same, I think, in terms of when you look at freshmen who have played, freshmen who have not played. It's about an even split. And it's not that the guys who haven't played or haven't played as much aren't good. Just look at the positions, defensive line. Jedd was asked about Omar Khan. I don't know why. No disrespect to Omar, but look at the guys in front of him. He's got too many dudes in front of him. Even Elenius, that's the shocker here. Elenius did not, no offense, couldn't do anything last year because came in, hurt, all that sort of stuff, and had a bunch of guys behind him. Now he's really showing through, and he's one of the top 5 defenders on PFF for UW. So that tells you, hey, look, we're going to play young guys, but that doesn't mean we're just going to say, oh, ban this, and you're out. We got to get this freshman a few snaps. No. You do it correctly, which is what I love from Jedd so far in that respect.
Yeah, and that's the biggest thing, where different programs have different philosophies on playing young guys. Where at other programs in the Big Ten, like maybe one just down south a little bit, it's very different. And it's, oh yeah, we need to make sure we work this freshman in no matter what at these particular times on these particular plays. That's not what it is. It's they're finding ways to utilize these guys to the best of their ability, which is fun. You love to see it with all of them, with Damon when he's in on some of these plays. And it's just all kind of come to a head now with this just seemingly being the first big building block for Khmori and what it could turn into. Because we've heard the coaching staff talk about him all spring when he came in. And we came into the spring, you and I kind of looked at each other, we're like, oh, he looks really good. He's really fast, he's really athletic, but he looked a little light. And we were kind of like, oh, we're not sure how much he might play this season. Comes out in the fall, and the first thing, everybody is raving about Khmori, just saying, yeah, look at how good this dude looks. We love him. He's put on weight. He learned the system really, really well. We might not, they didn't say it in this way, but we might not have a choice but to play him. And, it's the same thing where you and I had this discussion. We're like, oh, they're the 4 seniors. There's Devin Bryant who could be coming along. There's Anthony Ward who they brought in on scholarship. They brought in Hayden Moore. And it's like, oh, okay. We'll see how this works out. And it's a coachism, and it is what it is. But the cream rises to the top. And that's exactly what happened with Khmori. He just said, yeah, I'm going to come in here and I'm going to produce in the way and play fast and play free and play aggressive. And he's done such a fantastic job of that. And it's just awesome to see this.
Yeah, it reminded me when I got the chance, the humble brag here, got the chance to talk to him back in May or in March, April, May, somewhere in that ballpark. I think it was after fall camp. It was at an American Heart Association event. And you could just kind of tell from the way he talked where it's, okay, this guy is above his years. And then you remember, oh, he went to Bosco. So he knows how to play big moments, big games. The moment's never going to be too big for guys to come out of Bosco. Most guys. There's always some that end up floundering. James Smith maybe comes to mind there, but no shot. But just like not every Bosco guy is gift wrapped to be a guarantee. But that's also why when we saw Khmori as a 3-star out of Bosco, I'm like, ooh, I don't know about that. He's gonna play a lot on special teams, and we'll just see how much he can get in the rotation. And as you pointed out, you can give him a chance. Like you cannot, if they were not playing Khmori right now, it would be criminal, like a second degree crime. Like you could not, even with or without injuries, you could not play Khmori at this point.
And he's been so productive, and it's just it really adds so much to this team. Where whenever you're looking for some kind of boost, and especially just with the way the roster has turned out, right? Where after the departure, after all of the transfers, after all the guys that left for the draft, you were looking for guys like Khmori, where that's one of the other fun things about all these young players. It's who's going to step up and who's going to be, as we talked about a couple minutes ago, who is going to be that next wave of stars. Because, no offense to Will or to Jeremiah or to a couple of these guys, they're in their last year of eligibility, and they could, like Will's having a really nice year. Jeremiah looks really good. Like, Jonah Coleman could leave after this year if he wants, but all of these guys who have really stood out for the most part, like Giles Jackson being another one, even though he's been here for a while, all these guys that are having really nice seasons statistically, a lot of them are out the door because they're out of eligibility. So you're looking for guys like Khmori who you can go into 2025 and point at and say, that's a dude we're going to rely on. That's a dude we know we can build around. And it's exciting to see. But Lars, we gotta pull it back a little bit because this Rutgers game is going to be really, really tough. Which we'll get to right after a message from our good friends over at FanDuel. Hey, NFL fans, you can start the season with a big return on FanDuel, America's #1 sportsbook. So when you get a hunch in the middle of a game, you can check out the latest stats, view live play-by-play, and so much more on the same page where you place your bets. You get started with $200 in bonus bets guaranteed when you place your first $5 bet. That's at FanDuel.com. And I got a little fun NFL future there for you. It's one of my favorite things to do so far. Huge shout out to Roma Dunze, by the way, for 6 catches, 112 yards and touchdown. I'd say go check out his rookie of the year odds. That's a fun one over on FanDuel. But I got an MVP pick for you right now. Lars and I are recording this just before Monday Night Football, so things might change for the better here. But Josh Allen, love those MVP odds right now. There hasn't really been a quarterback that's really stepped up just yet. And this could be the year that Josh Allen takes home his first MVP. Lars, it's time. We gotta talk about this Rutgers game. We're gonna get way more into this over the week, like we said. And it all kind of starts with this, where Big Ten road test against a really solid team. Jedd said they're going to be doing a blackout. So it's going to be a fun environment on Friday night. What is your number one concern about this game?
The urge to black out for how sideways this game could go. Certain things don't go right. But to your point, to me, you know what? I'm going to take offensive line just for the sake of argument, because as Jedd Fisch mentioned, Max got dinged up a little bit. Played career high, 54 snaps. Sewanee only got 14. So that might tell you a little something about the direction of the snaps coming into this week. Fisch said he'll practice, I believe, on Tuesday, even though their first practice is tonight. It sounds like.
So hold on, let me stop you for 1 second, because we need to toot our horns there real fast. Where we said it feels like around the Northwestern game that Max would take over. Max would take more of the snaps. We said that at some point, as the everydayers know. Sorry, please continue.
I mean, if it wasn't for the fact that how do I put this? If it wasn't for the fact that Max had to take a year and a half off of football, he would have won the job coming out of fall camp. I'm pretty sure, because he would have come in better physical. That's no shot at Max, but just look, like that'd be like me and you trying to go out there and win a starting left tackle job. It ain't happening. Like we're gonna need some time. Like give me a few weeks. Man,
don't tell them they think we're like 6'5", 240. Don't pull the curtain back that far.
Oh, I was gonna say, I know Jimmy's got an option play for me in the playbook, so I know that's a fact. But the thing about Max is you could see it. Aside from, and I'm glad Jedd mentioned it because he got beat inside on the first one. It looked a little stiff, looked a little like, let me. Oh wait, we're doing inside too. Okay, cool. But after that play, did not really see a mistake from Max. Obviously, did allow that sack, but that's what you want to see. Whereas when we saw Sewanee, it was okay. Good, bad, good, bad. It was kind of like, not wishy-washy, but kind of just like it ebbed and flowed. It never really was a consistent level that you could count on. Max, after that second drive or third drive, was like, oh, wait, yeah, we're good. Like, we're good. We got it. Now, again, is he a finished product? By no means. Still got a long ways to go. But I think, especially going in against a physical team like Rutgers, I'll never forget Max telling me on the phone, I love play. He played defensive end and offensive line in high school. And I asked him, which one did you prefer more? And he's like, well, honestly, left tackle, because you can hit everybody or anybody on any play. Like, you can literally try and decapitate. And I'm like, not even an edge rusher. I'm like, interesting. So, but that tells you the mindset that he has as a left tackle. That in the Big Ten play is what's going to have to come through.
So I like that a lot. So mine kind of plays off of that a little bit on the offensive line. I want to go back to something that Will Rogers said after the Apple Cup, where he talked about having trouble with the noise and, the communication, getting the snap down, where I feel like those play hand in hand, where this has all the makings of, Jedd said this is the best Rutgers team he's seen in a long time. And I certainly agree with that. This is a really talented roster, really talented team. And they're very well coached as well. They're going to be disciplined, something that Washington has not shown to be over the first 4 games. So things like that center to quarterback exchange, things like false starts, things jumping off sides, these are things that concern me about this game. And I do have faith that this coaching staff can get it right. Like we heard last week, oh yeah, they're turning up the music at the practice. They're doing all these little things to make sure that, they're actually more prepared for this, which is nice. You like to hear that, but we need to see it on Friday. We certainly need to see that before we can just say, okay, yeah, I feel better about the direction that some of these little things are heading into.
You're absolutely right. The interesting thing about that, though, is the fact that Jedd didn't really have an answer for it. And I don't know that there is one, because, well, first of all, it's kind of hilarious that Jedd's like, I don't know what D'Angelo did at Portland State. Like, I'm like, don't remember the film. I guess we'll ask Brennan on Tuesday. But, it's one of those where, like, how much, when you looked at the scouting of that, because I remember he was a relatively early commit in the transfer portal process, came in, I believe, the day after my birthday on April 18th or 17th.
It was pretty early, yeah, because we saw him on his visit at practice, and then he committed while we were recording this here show.
And it was no shot at him, but I remember us thinking, like, do you take him now, or like, is it a depth piece? Is it like a 6th veteran guy that you can kind of move to a few different spots? I truly think that's D'Angelo's strength. I'm not saying he's not a good center, because he's been serviceable, but I think when we see the full health and, Landon getting back into the swing of things, I would almost rather see Landon at center and then D'Angelo is that 6th guy who can kind of do a mixture of things. Because now, to be fair, Landon also did have a bad snap. So it's not like Landon's been perfect here, but I just think I don't remember him having a bad snap last season in that regard when he was able to, come in and do some things. And so you kind of think about it and it's like, all right, well, on the road against Rutgers, do you want that to be Landon's first start, or do you still give D'Angelo the nod? But here's the thing, you're playing with fire, because one snap in a game like this, the spread's 2.5. It's a pick-up. Like, because you get 2 or 3 points for being the home team anyway, so it's basically a pick-up straight up. 3, right? So, okay, so we're talking about half a point here. With that being said, do you want to play with fire when you're already playing with fire with special teams, with some other things, with, guys being limited and certain things in that regard, while also still trying to mix and bring along Damon? So whenever Damon comes in the game, that's also playing with, not for Damon, but anytime if you have questions about the center snap exchange and you're bringing in things off of that, the kind of the wishbone that Adam Muhammad ran, all those sort of things.
Sorry, no, I don't mean to interject, but we've seen that too. We've seen that, in the Eastern Michigan game when he came in for that 3rd and 3. And there was another bad snap and it rolled past him and they ended up losing 16 yards of the play. So we've seen all of that where it just kind of feels like there's some kind of disconnect for whatever reason, even though we've seen Will working with both D'Angelo and Landon. We've seen Damon now working with both guys where there's something off, and it just like it's not necessarily the greatest answer from a coach perspective, but when you look at it from our perspective, it's everybody with everything. It's like, is there butter on the ball or something like that? That's kind of just where we're at with this.
Well, it's the fact that at least 2 or 3 snaps haven't moved off the ground.
Right.
I can understand off the thigh, especially going to the left or going to the right. I can accept that, right? If we're going through and saying, which one do you accept, which one do you not accept? Okay, I'll take that one. The ones that I don't accept are when that ball don't move, or when the ball, because here's the thing, you have your ball, you can see D'Angelo have his hand on the ball, And then it's almost like he just turns his head and just says, we're good. And I know he's not saying that, but there's something that happens from the snap, and no pun intended, but it's like right at that moment, it's almost like D'Angelo just freezes in those moments, or something happens where he short circuits. Because I have never seen like there's one thing where you mail it too high, 10 yards over, whatever you want to call it.
Sure.
When it doesn't leave the ground, that means you don't have a grip on the ball.
Yeah.
That's a problem. And then make that problem 10 times worse, going to Rutgers for a blackout in New Jersey, 8 p.m. kickoff on a Friday night.
It's not going to be easy, and that really is it, right? Where we're going to talk about Rutgers' well-coached defense later in the week, even though they're without Mohamed Toure, fantastic player. We're talking more about Kyle Monangai, another fantastic player, but that's what it is. It is getting the little things right, which at some points have looked really good, and at other points have not, which is certainly a concern in and of itself. And Lars, with that being said, as always, thank you so much for being here. Thank you to all everydayers for tuning in. We really do appreciate your support, and thank you so much for making Locked On Huskies your first listen today. Now, for your second listen, find Locked On College Football, from NIL deals, never-ending conference realignment rumors. Our guy Spencer McLaughlin gets you ready for an exciting season on the gridiron. You can find the link to Locked On College Football down in the description below on YouTube or wherever else you listen to your podcast. And just a reminder to make sure you subscribe to us here on Locked On Huskies wherever you get your podcast, whether that's YouTube, Spotify, Apple Music, Amazon Music. We're there. We're everywhere. We're updating this channel with new content every single day. So make sure you click that like button. Make sure you click that little bell so you never miss when we post a new video. If you have any questions, comments, concerns, drop them right down below in the comment section. We love to hear from you. And if you're audio only, please leave us 5-star reviews. It does help us out a lot. Thank you so much for tuning in, and we'll talk to you on Wednesday.